Hey, this is IndigoMusic.com. I'm Rohit, and joining me right now is a journalist and a columnist. She's working for 30 years, Shoba Narayan, who's also author of 5 books and now on Rock the Talk because she is out with a brand new book. It's called Namma Bangalore, The Soul of Cosmopolis. This is the book, and I just got my hands on it this morning. I went through a couple of my favorite topics in the book as well, and of course the book beautifully captures the ethos of Bangalore. Being a true Bangalorean myself, I've lived here, I've born, brought up in Bangalore. It captures me throughout, and I feel a strong connect. Shobha, first of all, welcome to Rock the Talk.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
And
delighted.
let's talk about Bangalore, which is now called Bengaluru. But your book
Yes,
still says it's the title as Namma Bangalore, the soul
yes.
of a metropolis. Why?
That I have to blame or compliment my editor. So
Okay.
I said it has to be Namma Bengaluru. He
Okay.
said, Shobha, I sit in Delhi. You think when I search on Amazon, I'm going to look for Bengaluru books? Most people, either in India or abroad, still think of Bangalore as Bangalore. So they're going to search on Bangalore books. So the compromise was Namma Bangalore.
Right. All right. Okay. That's I thought it had some deeper meaning, but this is the perfect explanation.
SEO ratings.
SEO, yes, digital world. That's where we live in right now. Now, there's a section in your book about food and drinks in the city. As a Bangalorean and an author, how hard was it for you to shortlist these hangouts and put them in your book?
The shortlisting wasn't hard, but the number of friends who became enemies after I shortlisted was hard because each one had their own favorites. And when I didn't include those, they were like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So that was the interesting part.
Right, and there's also a section in your book, a chapter which says 36 things to do in Bengaluru,
Yeah.
including things from visiting KR Market to Koshi's. My personal favorite is the 36th point: hug someone and don't let go. But what is your favorite thing to do in Bengaluru?
So when you said KR market, I love visiting the flower market
Yeah.
actually in the morning, early morning, and actually throughout the day. I think if you come to Bangalore, the wrap is that the relatives come. Day one, they're in Bangalore. Day two, they'll say Mysore Hogona. They think there's nothing here to see. So this is to give to all those relatives who come and say, you know what, there are 36 things to do, and take them to the flower market. It's a great place.
Right, absolutely. And growing up, every individual in Bengaluru, for example, if you take me, there always used to be one hangout joint, especially for breakfast. I remember as a kid, my dad and mom, almost every Sunday, we used to go to SN in JP Nagar, which you have put it up in your book as well. Was there one particular hangout joint that you used to go probably in your younger days, and why? Which was that favorite place of yours?
So, Rohit, as you know, Bangalore has now become a city of neighborhoods. I live in Halsuru.
Right.
So, my Shanti Sagar is where, if you actually talk about where I go walk on Halsur Lake and then I go and have a dosa, as we call it in Shanti Sagar. But that said, I wish I lived closer to Janardhan's hotel. My friend Madhu Natraj took me there, and I think it's one of those old, fantastic establishments. Koshi's is also great for
Yeah.
breakfast because you'll see so many people.
And since we're talking about iconic hotels, some cult food and drinks hotspot have closed down recently, which is unfortunate. The most recent one being New Krishna Bhavan in Malleshwaram. Do you think more will follow, and how can we not miss these? Like,
So there is a chapter that I've written about the Koramangala lunch group.
yeah,
These are a bunch of about 15, 20 people. They go frequent establishments in Koramangala. They don't go to the name brand places. They go everywhere. I think every neighborhood in Bangalore needs such a lunch group where all of us go out and frequent the places. And that's a way to prevent them from closing down.
yeah, absolutely. And the never-ending debate, Bangalore then and Bengaluru now. The change in name also coincided with the present state of affairs. For example, traffic and infrastructure. How has the city changed according to you since you moved to Bangalore?
So, unlike you, I'm not a lifelong Bangalorean. I've only lived here for the last 20 years. So, what happens if you don't grow up in a city? I grew up in Chennai.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't grow up in a city is that you don't have those associations of childhood that are so strong and so nostalgic. So, for me, the advantage as a newish Bangalorean is that I don't have that regret. It used to be like this. Now look at it. I used to cycle here. Now look how horrible it is. So my view is quite optimistic. In fact, somebody wrote to me and said, Shoba, are you nuts? You're saying the auto drivers in Bangalore are genteel and they're polite. Have you taken an auto recently? Yes, and yes, and yes, very often. But then you didn't grow up in Chennai, where you really, if you want to have full rough and tough, as they say.
Yeah, those share autos. I remember there was one year that I studied in eighth standard. I was in Chennai. I was living in Tiruvallur, and I know what you're talking about. Chennai is a place that will change you. But yeah, Bangalore has. Do you still feel that Bangalore, the people in Bangalore are still warm and courteous?
I absolutely, but then it again, it's because of an outsider's point of view. If you ask somebody who grew up here, they probably will. I mean, maybe you have a different point of view, Rohit, but
Yeah.
I think that Bangalore is a very civilized, very genteel, accepting city, which is why it is, all this startup capital, pensioners paradise. You have the startups and the pensioners, then something is happening that's right.
Absolutely. And the city has grown exponentially as well. 23 years back, when my dad built a house in JP Nagar 7th phase, all my relatives said, where outside, why did you build a house outside the city? And now there's a Levi's showroom right next to my house. So that's how the city has grown and grown for the good. Now I want to ask you, what was the purpose for this particular book? When did you stumble upon this idea of writing Namma Bangalore?
So I write a column for Hindustan Times, and over the last 3-4 years, I've written many articles, once a fortnight, and then a certain pattern began to emerge. And I thought a great way to understand the city is actually write a book about it, or do a blog, or do what you're doing. So that's how. So the hard part was to take all the columns. See, when you're a columnist and an RJ, it's all about timeliness. It's all about the urgency of now. So the hard part of writing this book was take all those columns that were on the timed news cycle and try to make it much more, I don't want to say eternal because the city will change, but at least much more of a book length future. So that was the janjat of doing the book. But other than that, the pattern emerged over the course of the last 4 years of writing.
Okay. And of course, you would have got a lot of feedback from people who have read your book. What are the aspect of book that most of them liked, about Namma Bangalore?
So they loved the fact that one chapter says you must learn Kannada in order to understand the city. I learned Kannada so I think that it opens up Bangalore in a way that is not possible otherwise. There are North Indians here who live for 30 years and don't speak Kannada.
Yeah.
So that part they loved. The food topics was the hardest one to write because I talk about breakfast specialties, and then there's all the family WhatsApp groups from my friends would forward and say, she doesn't know what she's talking about. What about Nuchinunde? What about Neer Dosa? So there are food. I didn't realize Bangaloreans are passionate foodies. This city has more Facebook foodies group than any other city.
Yes.
This city has more microbreweries than any other city. So we really, so that was the food part was the funnest to write and also the most controversial. The shopping, the guide chapters were difficult to write because you have to choose and everything. But I wanted it to be a book for somebody. You can give it to them and say, hey, this is like a friend holding your hand and taking you, come and see my Uru. That was the idea of the book. Yeah, so the essence of the city was well received in terms of the language, in terms of the character of the people, like that. Yeah,
Absolutely. And I agree with you on a point where you talked about Nuchinunde. A lot of people who have lived in Bangalore for their entire life don't know about this dish. Uh,
yes,
I have a colleague of mine who my mother prepared some Nuchinunde, and he was like amazed to have that with the chutney, the coconut chutney, and it
yes,
was absolutely.
yes,
I think food would have been the toughest one for you. Now there's going to
yes.
be a tougher segment on the show called Rapid Fire. Very, very creative. But here's where I'm going to put you on a spot. All right. Just about 4 questions. So I'm going to ask you the first one: filter coffee or tea?
Filter coffee.
All right. Since you're from Chennai, I'm going to put you on a spot: sweet sambar or spicy sambar?
Arre, spicy sambar.
All right. I, I love sweet sambar. I don't like the spicy sambar.
Spicy
Anyway,
sambar, I know.
on top of your head, name 5 cult food joints in Bengaluru.
See, I'm a vegetarian, so please
Yeah.
excuse me for that. So
Same
it
here.
would be okay. So it would be Brahmins, CTR, which has now got a new name, Sri Sagar.
Yes.
Veena Stores would be another one.
Yeah.
I have to choose one in my neighborhood. Let me pick a non-South Indian one. Let me pick Kara, which is a
Okay.
bakery opposite Alsur Lake. And the fifth one would be a no-name store that sells any Khanavali that sells North Karnataka food. There's
Okay.
Basveshwara Khanavali in Kormangla, but there's one right near my house on St. Mark's Road. There's another Khanavali. So look for the word Khanavali.
Khanavali, Jolad Roti Uta. That's what they
Howdo.
serve there. Fantastic. And finally, name the top 5 cult watering holes according to you.
Okay, so I like IPA beer, and Bangalore is, I've written about microbreweries here. So my closest to my house is Arbor. They have a nice IPA. In Kormangla, there's Beer Garden
Yeah.
and the Beer Library. In JP Nagar, there's a lovely brewery, but I forget the name, Rohit, so you'll have to help me out there. But there's one. And then, of course, Big Brewski on the other side of town in Hebbala. That is also.
Is the one in
so
JP
those.
Nagar Brahma Bruce?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And I would say,
oh, how could I forget Watson's? Okay,
Watson's,
I only spoke about breweries, but how could I forget Watson's?
Watson's and Picos, of course, they've been there
Yes.
forever. If you like rock music, Picos is the place to be. Shoba, once again, thank you so much for taking some time out, connecting with me, having this wonderful chat. And this book has, of course, launched. It's Namma Bangalore. Shoba, please tell people who are watching this or listening to us, where can they find this book, and is it available in both, digital and paperback?
Yes, thank you. It's available on Kindle and paperback. You can find it on all the online stores like Amazon and Flipkart. But I would urge you to walk on Church Street, go to Bookworm, go to Blossom, go to all the Higginbotham's is there, Sapna bookstores in many neighborhoods. Go there and buy it. If I may, I'm doing a talk tomorrow at the Bangalore International Center, which would be Tuesday, December 19th from 6:30 to 8. I'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. And of course, looking forward to the grand success of the book as well. Thank you so much, Shoba. Have a wonderful day ahead. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.